Satan's speaker places some of the blame on the infernal serpent, angel that he refers to as Satan and some of us may know as Lucifer. This angel stirred hatred, envy, and revenge. He placed himself above his peers, believing his glory to be equal to God. This turned into a war in heaven, which resulted in God hurling Satan and his followers from heaven into a fiery pit below. The fallen angels wake up in a lake of fire in Tartarus, or what we know as hell, where they are bound by adamantine chains. When Satan wakes, he describes his surroundings. A dungeon horrible on all sides round, as one great furnace flamed, yet from those flames no light, but rather darkness. Visible. For those rebellious, here their prison ordained in utter darkness, and their portion set as far removed from God and light of heaven. Milton does a great job here contrasting the two domains. If heaven is a place in the sky full of light, then wherever Satan and the other fallen angels have woken is a dungeon, a fiery abyss where only darkness is visible, a prison for the fallen. Next to Satan is his second in command, Beelzebub. Despite the predicament they find themselves in, Satan feels no regret for his rebellion against God. In fact, he sees this time as a period of regrouping before they launch their next attack. Beelzebub is not so convinced. After witnessing their failure the first time, he questions whether God can be defeated. Satan doesn't dismiss this idea. Rather than another battle head-on, he suggests a new tactic. God has many beloved creatures, and so what if they were able to corrupt them using their powers and the allure of evil? To do aught good will never be our task, but ever to do ill our sole delight, as being contrary to his high will whom we resist. If then his providence out of our evil seeks to bring forth good, our labour must be to pervert that end, and out of good to still find means of evil. Rather than another battle in heaven, what Satan is recommending is a proxy war, halfway in between heaven and hell, using God's favourite creations. Now with a plan, the two angels spread their wings and leave this river of fire. Many argue here that they did not break free of their chains. Instead, they were allowed to leave because this was not the punishment that God intended. Flying above, they scour the land and come to the conclusion that it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Once on land, Satan calls out to his fellow fallen angels and beckons them to his cause. The speech had its desired effect as the fallen angels were woken from their slumber. They gathered around Satan, who informed them that they had been erased from the book of life and the other books in heaven. But all was not lost, as even demons could be worshipped like gods in the eyes of man. During this speech, he learned the names of a few more fallen angels turned demons. Moloch, the king of human sacrifice, and the lustful Belial. By the end of this speech, Satan had taken thousands of wounded and disheveled angels and turned them into an army that once again believed in a cause. Rather than be ashamed of their actions, they should instead embrace their evil nature and be proud of the demons they have become. They can make themselves a new home here in hell, and to mark this day they construct a great temple in the city known as Pandemonium, which in Greek means all the demons and all the spirits in Latin. Pandemonium became the focal point, where all the demons gathered for council. In the first gathering here, Satan is honest with his peers. The war in heaven was difficult, and it might just be impossible for them to ever retake heaven. He opens the floor to anyone who wants to speak, and up steps Moloch. Moloch favors the direct approach of open war, believing they should lay siege to heaven once again, but this time using the newfound weapons of hell. Moloch is driven by revenge and anger. To him there is nothing worse than their fate in hell, not even death. And so there is nothing to lose by striking now, when those in heaven least expect them to do so. To him there is no downside to this plan. Either way they are free from hell. Next to speak is a much calmer Belial. He believes their punishment could be even worse if they choose to attack heaven again. There might come a time where God even forgives them for their betrayal, but Belial doesn't necessarily advocate for peace. They should wait and see what God has planned for them and then act upon the matter. Next to step forward is Mammon. He doesn't call for war either, but also accepts that he will never bow down to God again. Mammon calls for industry. They are free to do as they please in hell. If they work together, they can make hell a kingdom as great as heaven. This idea is met by applause and garnered the most support from his fellow demons so far. The last to speak is Beelzebub, who also wishes to be free of God's servitude. He tells his peers of stories he heard in heaven, the creation of a new world that would be populated by man, a new race that God loves even more than angels. They can have their revenge by corrupting and destroying these humans without another war. This suggestion garners even more support than the idea put forward by Mammon. When their votes are cast, it is the idea discussed by Beelzebub and Satan that is chosen as their plan of action. It is Satan who volunteers to leave hell and scout for this promised land. With Satan gone, the council reconvenes and discusses how to begin building hell into a kingdom that can rival heaven. Satan now has the rather difficult task of finding a way out of hell. Eventually he reaches the gates, of which there are 9 in total, 3 made from brass, 3 from iron, and lastly 3 from adamantine. Guarding these gates, he sees 2 figures in the distance, a woman with the lower half of a serpent surrounded by a pack of dogs, and the second is shrouded in darkness. These 2 figures are known as Sin and Death. Satan confronts this woman and demands that he is allowed to pass. Now, this is where things start to get strange. She asks him if he has forgotten who they are. She then explains that they are his children, Sin and Death. From his actions as an angel, Sin was created, springing forth from his head. She was then impregnated by Satan, giving birth to Death, who then in turn impregnated Sin, and this time she gave birth to a pack of hounds that follow and torment her. Satan's children were responsible for guarding the gates of hell, as well as the keys needed to open them. He soon realizes that his children can be persuaded to join his cause. After explaining the plot for vengeance against God, his children, as planned, are persuaded, and Sin, using the keys, unlocks the gates of hell. Ahead of him is only darkness, but Satan chooses to leave hell and fly straight into the darkness.
This game, you're not ready for it.
Caught in a storm, Satan falls through the sky until he catches a ride on a cloud. Flying blindly towards the noise he can hear, he finds himself in the presence of chaos and night, the rulers of this dark abyss. I come no spy, with purpose to explore or to disturb the secrets of your realm. Ensuring chaos and night that he means no ill will, he finds finds himself explaining his plan once again and asking for assistance to find this new world. By claiming this new world and corrupting it with evil, Satan claims that chaos can also reign here freely, which is enough to convince them to join his cause. Chaos points to where a new world has been created, and Satan assumes that this must be the prophesied earth, created by God for mankind. Sin and death follow slowly behind Satan, creating a bridge from hell to this new world, which will allow the demons of hell to easily travel back and forth between the two. In Book 3, we shift perspective to heaven, where God has been watching everything transpire. He